Hello everyone. It usually takes a good minute for all the webinar attendees to roll in. So I will start my introduction today. And for anyone who misses anything, this webinar is being recorded, so you can go back and watch it again. My name is Zoe and I'm a campaign manager here at Birchal. And before I start today's webinar or investor Q&A, I would like to quickly acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which Birchal is based on, which is the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. These webinars are a fantastic opportunity for you to learn so much more about the incredible businesses on the Birchal platform and hear directly from their founders. And today I'm joined by Dalps and Max from Cappsule. In today's session, they're going to take us through a 15 to 20-minute presentation about their company and the story so far. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A session. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a little Q&A box and you're able to submit your questions through there and I'll ask them to the founders at the end of this presentation. Please also be sure to upvote any questions that you would like answered as a priority. And then, yes, as I mentioned, we are recording today's session. So if you would like to jump off early, that's totally fine. We'll make the recording available at the end. Just very quickly, for those who may not be familiar with Birchal, Birchal is a company which allows people to invest in early stage companies like never before. So through this type of capital raising, companies aren't limited to a normal shareholder cap or, require investors to have the amounts that are needed usually. So we're allowed to take on hundreds and if not thousands of new investors for companies going forward. And Birchal is a CSF platform. So CSF is crowdsourced funding, and we act as the gatekeeper to ensure that investment offers are compliant with ASIC laws, but we also, are here to facilitate and help small businesses and startups scale up. So without further ado, I'll hand over to the founders of Cappsule to give a presentation about their offer and campaign on Birchal.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Hey guys, I'm Dalps. I'm founder and CEO of Cappsule. About a 20-year background in tech, predominantly running tech businesses since I was about, 19. So I gave away my age there. And Max, introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Max. I'm the co-founder at Cappsule. I head up most of the digital strategy here. So everything to do with brand, customer-facing material, and the marketing of the business.
Well, thanks for joining us here today. So we're here for Cappsule. So what inspired Cappsule? So a while ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, I had a property down Manly Beach and I was away on vacation, renting out my place. Actually, it wasn't quite vacation. I was doing a charity rally at the time. I was a little bit out of touch. And when I came back up, I found my property manager was actually living in my home. So I kind of realized there's a lot of these issues going on. There wasn't anything at the time, a solution to the problem. So I made a little sense of technology. Being in IT, it was easy for me to access those bits and pieces needed to make something that just lets me know if something is up. Is there movement when there shouldn't be movement? Is there too much sound in the property? That kind of stuff. So that's where it kind of started. And it was a pretty bad problem. It got stung with a few different things a few years back. And yeah, then as things went on, turns out I wasn't the only person with that problem. So we had looked at the stats, and the stats were huge. We were seeing stats around 56% of hosts were concerned about property damage. And given that there's 6 million hosts properties listed worldwide, that's a lot of properties. A lot of conversations with people around the problem itself, and then also problems as a guest. So I've been a guest, I travel quite a bit, and I found there's some people they use things like cameras to make sure their property is safe. Now you can almost understand why a homeowner would put a camera in their property to make sure their property is safe, but as a guest, that kind of privacy invasion was just not acceptable. Actually, Max had some pretty bad experiences too, which led to him looking at it very closely from a guest perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's against Airbnb's terms of service as well to have internal cameras in your property. But I mean, people are always finding ways around things like that. So they'll get external cameras and point them into the main living areas to keep an eye, I guess, on what the guests are doing and to make sure their home is safe. And so we sort of came to the conclusion that there has to be a better way to solve this problem. And it's not just a problem that we're experiencing as both a guest and Daubs as a host. So what we wanted to do was really come up with a product that focuses on privacy. And privacy is so important. Now, when you're away on holiday and you're enjoying an Airbnb for a weekend, for example, the last thing you want to be worrying about is your privacy being breached. You just want to go away for the weekend and enjoy yourself. And as a host, you want someone to use your property, be respectful, and turn that property that you have into an income generating asset. So the journey then started to get to where we are today.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it all started with that disaster, the rental disaster. We kind of moving through those things I just spoke about. We made another prototype somewhere in 2019. So it was still a problem. There still wasn't a solution that tackled all the things that I experienced as a host. And also a lot of other people started experiencing as hosts. So we're talking about not just the ambient space, but individual assets. So, what happens if someone breaks into a locked cupboard in your property? Or what if someone smashes a TV? With a TV, you can't tell if it's cracked until you turn it on. And so I had guests who were call up and say, hey, look, the TV's broken. It was like that when I got here. And you go, well, was it that guest to report it? Or was it the guest beforehand? Or was it the cleaner in between? It was one of those things about accountability. And the last thing we want to do is finger pointing. There's a lot of things there that just weren't around. So still in 2019, we thought, look, let's see what we can do with this thing. So we started doing some product testing and design. We created a new version of the prototype, which is a more commercially producible prototype. And we started doing a lot of intense testing in terms of market appetite. So in terms of market appetite, I'll just flip back. Sorry, Maxie. So yeah, Max actually ran some ads with us and we got a great result. We got about, in 1 week, over 2,200 people registered their interest to buy the product. And so we thought, you know what, if we've got that many people putting their hand up to do that, we're onto something here. So, COVID hit, unfortunately, so we put everything on hold. A product that relies on the travel industry to be operating, it's probably not really wise to develop something for the travel industry. So we put it on hold. And then in 2021, we dusted it off. We had a bit of tinkering during 2021 and created another version of the prototype, a little bit of improvement. And that's when Max, he was working with me pretty closely and we were loving where we're going. And Max really offered a lot of value from, guest perspective and insights as well, and the design perspective. So that's when Max came on board.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as you can see, as soon as I did come on board, we were really off to the races. I mean, we did the cap raise with Australian Silicon Valley. That was towards the middle of 2022. And then everything kicked off from there. So the software development, we went and filmed the Kickstarter video as well for the US market, which we plan to expand into. We received the R&D grant as well and got approved for that and started working with our industrial designers for design. So once we then had the software and the product down, we decided, let's continue to gauge market appetite. And that's when we started looking at increasing marketing activities and then kicking off things like PR. So that's when we brought the Addicism on, which are our PR team who've done a great job this year to get us in some media coverage. And we started looking at the guest side of the experience. And this is a gap where we found a lot of our competitors haven't taken into account. So a lot of them are catering for the hosts and the issues that they experience, and they're sort of ignoring the guest's role in that sort of exchange of value that happens in short-term rental properties. So we decided to come up with a guest interface for our product to differentiate ourselves from the market. And then from there, we found that, our solution is very unique. We're handling a lot of different problems experienced by hosts, from the asset tracking to monitoring the home with a non-invasive product with a privacy focus. And we're also catering for guests as well and focusing on that guest experience. So that's when we use Pioneer IP to submit our provisional patents. We did that at the beginning of this year. And from there, we could also make a decision to finalize a prototype and work with Design to get that to a commercially ready to manufacture product. So that's when all of our PR started picking up and kicking off. And, you know, in the last couple of months, we've been featured in a bunch of different platforms. So you might be thinking, you know, did we get here on our own? Is it just you two guys? No. And Dabs will take us through, I guess, a bit about the team that got us to where we are today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Max. So we are two guys in a room, but we have a big team behind us. So we've been lucky enough to get some of the best of breed to work for us on different elements of the project when they're needed. The good thing for a business, we're able to keep it very lean, and it's results oriented. So it's a fixed price for a fixed outcome, which has really suited our business model to date. So we have a big team behind us. They spool up and down as we need them to do. So right now we've spooled down a lot of the different technical sides of the team because they're not required, but we will be spooling them up. So I'll let Max take you through the marketing side of things.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned earlier, we're using the Addicism for our marketing and PR, and we're using Glide Agency for our advertising. They've done an awesome job thus far, and I'll let Dalbs take you through the product.
Yeah, so product team, we've got actually some really exciting news, which I can't tell you yet. It will be in the offer documents. Exciting news about our dev partner. So that's going to be announced very soon. And in terms of the actual hardware development, so the people that design the products, we use a firm called Design. They're here in Australia. They're in Surrey Hills. They have more awards on their wall than wall space. Now, these guys have designed a lot of really complex, really big systems of products, including in the medical industry, which is relevant to us, but I'll loop back to that later. But they also design things like the Opal card system, if anyone's familiar with the Opal card in Sydney. So we've got those guys working on the actual electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, industrial design, and they actually take it from all the way through to final delivery of the product. So they will be manufacturing our first few batches of the product, at least here in Sydney. So they'll be manufacturing the finished product, packaging it up, and having it ready for sale here. Also on our product team, we have Cloud Specialists. So Cloud Specialists is working on the customer support development and I guess our systems and processes. On the legal side of things, we use a company called General Standards. They do all our contracts, all everything. You might see some things come through from them if you choose to come on board. And Pioneer IP has been responsible for our patents and trademarks. And that is a service we will continue to do, is we will continue to register more patents and trademarks and expand on the ones we already have as capital arises and as development continues. And for peace of mind with you guys, we use RSM for all our accounting. So RSM are one of the top 5 in the world in terms of accounting practices. They take care of all our accounting and compliance. So they take care of everything from our BAS, our entity tax, our payroll, all those things. And Swanson Reed take care of all our R&D. So we apply for the R&D grant, which we've received. And we also use a company called Radium Capital, which actually lets us tap into that R&D grant before the financial year's over, which means that we can really bolster our financial position intra-year and get an overall better result at the end of the year from that R&D grant. And then we've got a bunch of really good advisors. So we've got Mike Langford. He's the head of Google Cloud and Staff Ecosystem for JPAC. And it's pretty exciting to have that on board. One of the potential close partnerships we want to have will be with Google. So it's great to have someone like Mike on board as an advisor. We still have Anna as an advisor who is from ASV, Australian Silicon Valley, who was investing in us last year. And again, we have one TBA, which is again some exciting news. We can't announce it yet, but it is going to be a CTO, someone who has had a lot of hands-on experience in building multiple unicorns. So really cool to have that team in place and behind us to support us. All right. let Max take over.
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned earlier, it's been a sort of a wild ride from the inception of this business. And as you know, things tend to move very quickly. As far as traction goes, what do we have? I mean, we're a pre-revenue company, as you know, but we did validate our idea out in the marketplace. So in 2019, when we ran those test ads, given the marketing and advertising landscape has changed, 91 cents a lead is a remarkably low number. And that is sort of the focus, I guess, there. 2,200 qualified leads in 7 days really showed that there was people jumping at the bit to get our product in their hands and to get this product out into the market, because there was a big need for it. In 2022, after going through the due diligence with ASV, they decided to invest 300K, which really got us to where we are today. And that got us to our sort of final prototypes that you're seeing now, and helped stand up a lot of our marketing activities and development in the software area as well. And this year, I guess our traction has been really media focused. The story has been picked up by multiple news outlets, both here in Australia and over in the US, creating a bit of buzz surrounding our solution and really highlighting the problem that's, it's just growing here and abroad.
And proudest milestones. I'm pretty proud, of getting the patents submitted. And the design of the product. It was pretty good. I mean, we're a team of 2. I mean, obviously, we have a bigger team behind us, but it's great to kind of see cause and effect. So we're pretty proud of doing that. And the products themselves. So the products have been tested. So we actually got a bit of short towel here as well. There's the HQ model, the standard HQ, and then we have our stay and our go tags. So maybe a little bit of information about the product itself. I'm not too sure if people know exactly what they do, but this is the device that monitors the ambient space. So it picks up a whole bunch of things that are happening in the space, but without cameras and microphones. So it uses a bunch of really neat sensors that we cram into the box to overlay data, and we run an algorithm through that data that gives you then alerts, whether alert directly to the guests. So kind of like a smoke alarm gives a beep if there's a smoke in the apartment. This will give you a beep if you're being too loud. It'll tell you on the screen as well, there's an alert, and give you some indication, hey, maybe you need to lower the volume, or maybe there's an air quality issue or something of that nature. So this can be sitting on a table where it's horizontal mode on the desktop. It lights up like a clock. If it's up in the corner of a room, it's kind of like when you have a motion detector for a security system, it just sits up in the corner very discreetly, and it just lets you know if there's something going wrong in the property and you need to know about it. So that's the HQ device. Then we have our tags. We got our stay tag. So the stay tag is something that's meant to be attached to anything that needs to stay in the property. So you peel off that little sticker on the back, you stick it on a TV or an artwork. It tells you if it's been moved, if it's had any impact, if it's been dropped, or if it leaves the property. So if it leaves check-in distance of this guy, and if it does leave the property, then it's also a GPS tracker. You can also do things with this, like you can stick it on a door, like let's say a locked cupboard or wardrobe at your property with all your belongings in there, and it can actually tell you if that door's been opened. So you can put it on the jewelry box lid, you can do anything like that. So you have accountability that you know something's going to miss. And then we have our go tag, which is effectively, see on the right-hand side, I don't have one here with me, but it's effectively an intelligent key tracker. So for us to build this whole ecosystem within the last 12 months has been, we're pretty proud to achieve that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it also comes with the limited funding we've used thus far. And majority of this project has been self-funded to date.
So how are we different? So I can talk to the solution being different. So we have more sensors in this thing and better quality of sensors than anyone else in the market. And more isn't always better, but in this case, it is. Our sensors, by having more sensors in there, we can overlay that data in different ways. And by overlaying that data, we can then run more deeper algorithms. Algorithms have a higher level of accuracy. Plus, we can also detect more things. So it lets us branch out, not just for the short-term rental industry. We're already starting to experiment algorithms for things like independent living, NDIS, aged care. So this device can detect things like a slip and fall. So if someone's at home by themselves and they slip and fall, this thing can pick that up and send you an alert. So those types of things that our competitors who do just short-term rental properties don't have access to that level of technology. So that's something which we find is a huge differentiator. Also, our competitors don't do the ambient space as well as the individual assets. So again, one ecosystem that we can do everything and monitor a single pane of glass. So you have a single dashboard that you can see what's happening across the health of one property or a portfolio of properties. So if you are a property manager and you have 500 plus clients, this thing means that you can see exactly what's happening across your entire ecosystem in that one dashboard. So that's from a solution perspective.
Yeah, and then I think also Cappsule as a brand in the market, we have a real focus here on not just privacy, but we want everyone to enjoy themselves. Travel is a very fun industry to be in and to play in. And we think that, you know, when people go away and stay at Airbnbs, they should be enjoying themselves. We're not trying to prevent people from having a good time. We just want them to have fun in a way that respects the host property and allows the guests to enjoy themselves just without being watched. So I think as a brand, we're doing that by doing things like activations. We plan to do a smash room, and there are a bunch of ways in which we really want to cut through being a security device, a boring device that people use to monitor. It's more there to serve as a lead indicator that something might be going wrong, but letting everyone enjoy themselves. So I feel like as a brand, Cappsule is very different to anything out there on the market. And that's something that we want to continue to grow. We want people to understand that. And I think that's really important for us.
So we're raising funding for a few things in the business to help us grow. So first thing is acquiring new talent. So if two guys and a couple $100,000 can do this, imagine we start adding team members in there and bolstering our financial position a bit. So first thing is for us to hire a team to enable us to scale. The second part would be manufacturing the product. So the first batch of manufacturing is the most expensive. That's to do with some of the tooling and things like that need to be created to make the first batch. And the first batch will be a smaller batch than the larger future batches. So that's the second thing. And the third is focusing on sales activities. So the sales activities, we are kicking off a pre-sale. The pre-sale will be starting on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. The reason we launch on those is a few reasons. One is marketing. It's just a neat way to market to a very niche audience. Two, it judges how many products we will need to manufacture. So by pre-selling the unit, you can gauge how large is that manufacturing batch going to be. The first one might be, is it going to be 1,000 or is it going to be 10,000 units? And there's a very big difference between those when you look at manufacturing perspective. So that's, you know, and it's also not too dissimilar, like Kogan does it with TVs. If you buy one that's on pre-sale, it's significantly cheaper than you buy one that's ready to ship. So that methodology is something that's tried and tested, and we're really keen to use that, again, to minimize the risk for the business. And the other thing is B2B sales. So some of that internal talent that we're looking to acquire will be forming relationships with property management groups, with other distribution channels, things like that. So that involves things like conferences, trade shows, activations, and events. So primarily that's where the funds will be used for. And it's just a quick timeline on the process. So we're not talking a very long process to get going. We are pre-revenue now. And as Max mentioned, we went through the DD process with ASV last year now. And yeah, we're lucky to get a $9 million valuation that time. And since then, we were able to kind of move the needle quite a bit. And we want to get to sales very quickly, because what that will do for all our Birchal investors, hopefully should move the needle a bit there with bolstering that sales position. So once we start getting some sales traction there, we'll be doing that, as mentioned, through Kickstarter, and then engaging property manager groups. And then around the 6-month mark from kickoff is when we'll actually start selling B2C directly. And then also we are looking at some retail partnerships there. So the people where we will be approaching the likes of, you know, your homeware products, you know, ideally your JB Hi-Fis, your Harvey Normans, anyone like that is targeted as someone we'd like to sell this retail in Oz. And in the US, we're also targeting some of the bigger players there, like your Best Buys and whatnot.
So I guess, when it comes to Birchal, what inspired us to raise funds through their platform? And I guess apart from their track record of success, we also wanted to build product advocacy. And we know that, Aussies love property as an investment asset and mechanism, and they love getting greatest return possible for their property. Now, by launching our crowdsourced funding through Birchal, we also gain a lot of product advocacy. And we found that even through some of the calls we've been having with the EOIs that have come through thus far. And we really want to get our investors championing our product here in Australia. And by keeping things Aussie, we also get to have that home ground advantage here. We really want to see our product make a buzz here. Whilst we take it overseas as well, we really want to make sure that we identify as an Aussie brand and an Aussie product. And that's really, really important to us. So that's the reason why we decided to use Birchal for our raise.
And I think it's time for us to open up the Q&A.
I'm back.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you.
Thanks. That was really great to hear. And, I always love learning more about the businesses I'm working with, even though I've been working with you guys for quite a few weeks / months now. I still love learning more about all the plans and everything to come. We've had some really great questions come through. Thank you, Lee, for your questions. First one from Lee is, has this idea been discussed with Airbnb? How do you know that they will not restrict this with their T's and C's further down the line?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate the question. So Airbnb already has a few people in their ecosystem that have a similar product. So the competitors in this space, the bigger one's called Minut, so M-I-N-U-T, if you'd like to look them up. The other is called Noise Aware. They both have somewhat similar product, albeit far more rudimentary. Noise Aware just does noise. And Minut does a few more things, a bit closer to us, but still pretty far away. And it's accepted. Actually, in fact, last October, was it? In October, Airbnb actually paid for a couple of thousand units of Minut's devices to be delivered to North Carolina, I think it was, to avoid parties that were happening at North Carolina, some particular city during Halloween. So they actually funded to roll these out. There are some really strict T's and C's that we need to adhere to be an Airbnb partner. I'm also pretty lucky that one of my buddies is the global head of tech partnerships at Airbnb. So he's been giving us a bit of insights into what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So we've
and I guess on this note as well, if you really look at what our product does and how it functions, what we're trying to do is give hosts peace of mind. There's a lot of people out there that I've spoken to that have properties that they've wanted to list on Airbnb, but they've seen too many disasters thus far, and they've heard too many horror stories of people's houses getting trashed or these out of control parties. They just wouldn't consider it, and they'd rather have that property there on a sort of long-term lease. And they are missing out on a lot of revenue that they could be generating. So what we're doing is we're eliminating that friction point for Airbnb, and we're encouraging hosts to actually jump on their platform, and for guests to also feel safer in the experiences that they're having. So building their customer advocacy as well. And I feel like that is large enough reason for them to not want to cut us out of their platform.
Sure. And also going back to the Airbnb, the T's and C's, it's really strict around data storage, the data we capture, things like that. We don't capture any live audio from the premises. Anything that's transmitted to us is stripped of all data, is encrypted and sent to us. So what we get is literally numbers. And those numbers are just interpreted. So levels of things. So that's kind of what we get is, I guess, almost just the metadata, like the background stuff. So that all adheres. Also, with Airbnb, strict policy, there's no cameras or microphones or listening devices of any kind allowed in the bedrooms. Common areas is a little bit more relaxed. No cameras, but still allowed to have listening devices. That's in case people have things like Google Home appliances and things like that in the property. It's flexible enough to allow for things like that.
Cool.
Hopefully that answers the question. Yeah.
Just for everyone's awareness too, there is a button on the Birchal platform when you do express an EOI that lets you send direct messages to the founders. So if you want to keep connecting and discussing all these things, you're more than welcome to shoot a note via that way. But thank you, Lee. Great question. And you guys are name dropping a lot. You've got a lot of connections. Good ones, obviously.
Yeah.
Another question from Lee. Thanks, Lee. Not all homes have free Wi-Fi, especially in Perth. How are you, one, able to provide the software updates to the product remotely, and two, report on the findings during the guest stay without a network connection?
Cool. Okay.
And I can just ask the first question if you want, and then we can answer the second. So first question, how are you able to provide the software updates if people can't connect to the internet automatically?
No problem. So it does require internet to be able to connect from the device to the cloud. And that's how the notifications are served to, I guess, to the host, whether the host has the Cappsule app or whether they use the web app, so the website to do that. The device still works without that. So the device in the property will send localized alerts to the tenant, so the device beeps and flashes and things like that, so like a smoke alarm would. So the tenant themselves will know about it, but there'll be no alert sent to the host. In saying that, it does have a SIM card slot in there and the capability to take an eSIM, so we can actually ship it out with cellular capabilities off the bat. So,
but if you were to need to update the software on the product, you would need to connect it to the internet.
So you will, that's right. But if it's got our SIM card in it, that will handle everything. So there you go. And the second question, report on the
kind of answered it. So how would you report on the findings during the guest stay without a network connection? So would it be like capturing the data too that's able to be released later on, or is that? Yeah,
everything spools up on the device. If it loses connectivity for any reason, whether it be it could be a power outage in the property, so Wi-Fi is down, or it could be because the internet's down the area or some nature, everything is spooled on the device and it does send it out later on.
Awesome.
So, and yeah, Lee, if you have any more technical questions, happy to answer anything, even offline if you'd like to. So no problem at all.
Cool. This one's from TJ. Keen to understand, and I think TJ might have asked it before we covered it off, but still, keen to understand more about the sales and distribution strategy and any idea of price points.
Yeah, fantastic. So I can bring up that slide with Max if you don't mind. I'll talk to it until he brings it up. But sales and distribution strategy. So for us to really scale, we need a scalable sales process. So for us, distribution really comes in there. So that one-to-many relationship. So we're looking at things like, for starters, engaging distribution partners. So we're already talking with several distribution partners. Since the media stuff came out in February in US and March in the US and last month here, we've had a lot of distributors come up and want to distribute the product. So we've had one, for instance, from the US. They have a series of eco lodges and build tiny homes and cabins, and they have thousands of people they've served. They'd like to sell our products to their customers. We have another one, which is a public listed company, Australian public listed company, who would like to distribute it to the US for the healthcare version of this product, which is a little bit exciting, but that's a little while away, focusing purely on the I guess the short-term rental market for us. That's the way we're looking at it, is through distribution, through people who already have an addressable market. That's our client base. So we're looking at people like property management groups. We're talking with a few who have several thousand properties under management, and they would be the exact people we're looking for to then resell that product to their ecosystem. But the very first thing for us is, we launch on Kickstarter. Day one of Kickstarter, we can then, after it's been launched, we can then go talk to anyone else. The rules around Kickstarter is you can't have sold the product anywhere else before selling on Kickstarter. So we just have to tick that milestone, because that will then give us a very large, very targeted audience within Kickstarter for us to work with, who are the ones who expressed all that interest previously. Does that answer the question, Zoe? Is that
sure? Yeah. And then once again, I think you touched on this at the end of your presentation, but TJ was also asking who are your current competitors, and I'll let you talk to that a bit more, but it sounds like you kind of combine both their strengths. by the sound of it, but
Yeah, thanks for that. There's a few in the space. If there will be a magic quadrant in the offer document that will outline quite a few and where we sit in comparison with them. So as mentioned briefly, we do have the major ones would be noise aware. They do a plug-in device that just measures noise. Another being Minute, who does have a slightly more in-depth product than noise aware. And there's another one called Party Squasher. They use Bluetooth technology overlay with some sound data to identify if there's a party brewing. And there's a few others that are emerging, but we have a full competitor analysis in the offer document. And if there's anything there that's, that is missing or a question, feel free to reach out and discuss with us.
cool. Are they all internationally based companies as well?
Yeah, most of them are US. I think one is from Israel. Most of them from the US.
Cool. TJ?
No, Aussie, by the way.
Sorry?
None of them are Aussie.
Okay, good. It's an advantage in itself. TJ, again, high level, what does the patent cover? What's the barrier for the competitors? Example, can it be mirrored by adding the same sensors? So I guess we want to learn a bit more about the technology and what you've got patented.
No worries. Well, what we can do is I'll bring up the slide. There's actually a patent number in there. You can jump on the Australian Patent Office and check out the full patent and details if that's something of interest to you. Let me see if Max can share the screen, or Zoe, maybe we can just copy and paste that for you.
I'll paste it now into the chat.
So I'll talk to a high level while Max does that. So the patent covers the combination of the sensors and the things that we have in that product, noting we have some sensors that have never been used in this kind of ecosystem before, including a particular type of radar sensor. So it's a combination of those sensors to create that solution, also the ecosystem of products. So the fact that we're the only ones with something that can detect what's happening in the ambient space as well as individual assets. So we've put the protection in place for barriers up for let's say as much as you can for competition, but as you know, patents are only as strong as what you can defend or protect. It's really a deterrent. Anyone can come in and try to do something similar, and the patents aren't approved as yet. So the way it happens is you submit the patent first, and then that process takes quite some time for a patent to be either approved or rejected. But at least it's lodged where we do certainly have a level of protection. At the moment, it's covered by the International Patent Treaty. That is when you first submit a patent. We have until February next year to further that and to identify exact geographical regions that we would like to protect. And then during that time, we can also add more to that patent as we see fit, or we can apply for additional patents. Those patents in particular, we've applied not just for the short-term rental, we've also put up barriers for things like aged care, independent living, things like NDIS, student accommodation. So all those have been named as somewhere that we are using a solution like this. So we have put up some of those barriers here, and that's really important for our mid to long term, where we'd really see the growth of Cappsule significantly beyond short-term rental into things like the aged care, independent living, all those things.
Great, thank you.
And yeah, on that as well, if needed, yeah, I've put the patent application number there. If you pour yourself a large enough tea, you can have a read through that document.
It's a red wine situation, actually.
Yeah.
I'm just sending that now back in the Q&A too. 1 sec. Cool. Question from Caitlin. Can the alert levels be adjusted? For example, can you change the decibel levels to be higher or lower higher or lower to initial an alert?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So it comes out of the box with best practices, let's say. So with recommended setting, you can tweak that up or down. You can turn alerts on or off. You can turn sensors on or off. So in the background, if you don't want to know if there's noise alerts, you can just turn off the alert. You can do anything around that. The really neat thing about the system as well is, you know, we do spruik AI and machine learning in there quite a bit. Well, we've really put that to work. So when we install it, or when it gets installed and plugged in at a property, it understands a baseline. So that baseline then understands what happens at the property. So you can say, for instance, a bus drives past every 12 minutes and makes a lot of noise in the property. It will then grow to discount that and get rid of that. And so those things happen automatically. And then you can also tweak any alert level, also the timing of alerts. So any alert is always set to go to the tenant first, unless it's an urgent health and safety issue, in which case you can be alerted as well. But typically it's tenant first, give them a chance to correct the behavior, understand what's going on first. And then if that's not happening, then you can get escalated to. So you can change the timing between alerts, you can change the level of alerts, or switch them on or off altogether.
Cool, thank you.
If that answers, Caitlin. Happy to go into more details if you need. So reach out if you need to.
Awesome. Well, those are the ends of the questions from the Q&A from the crowd. I guess I just have one or two more and then we can wrap it up, if that's okay. I know you mentioned your tags for, the TVs and everything. Do you have plans to make, there it is. Do you have any plans to make further products and expand the range?
Oh, it's a good question. I think we do. Short answer is yes, we do. Long answer is really keen to focus on what we already have. So for us, we do have the HQ. So this one here, it's the product will remain the same. It's the algorithms that we can change. So because we have all the smart stuff in here, we can make that grow, change, and use different applications without having to change a form factor. So like we alluded to before, we're already in discussions for aged care, NDIS, even student accommodation. So all those areas opens up huge new revenue streams with a very, very minimal investment, because the hard work's already done in creating blocks, right? So for us, we're not going to be creating more hardware products for now. That's going to be more just the iteration of the platform itself to create new solutions from this hardware.
Cool, thank you. And lastly, are you planning on offering any investor rewards for your campaign?
Oh, yes, we are, Max.
Yes, definitely. We'd love to see everyone bolstering our product with hats, hoodies, and the like. Obviously, it goes without saying, you'll get access to our product before anyone else. We'll get some tags and the HQ, for example, across to investors. They are tiered up, obviously. And yeah, I mean, we also have a bunch of activations as well for some of the larger investors. We'll be inviting them to come to our activations, one of which will be a smash room, which we're really excited to announce a little bit later.
Yes, so that's it. And also keen to hear from the community. Maybe we can run a poll or something. Who thinks what? So really happy to hear back from the community what they would prefer in terms of investor rewards. We have some things in mind. A lot of it is swag, but some of it is product, and we'd love to see that product out there.
Okay, cool. Well, set up a poll.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for that wonderful presentation, and it's really enlightening to hear all your responses to the Q&A. We'll wrap it up now, I suppose, but I guess, for the people listening, thank you for coming along today and for your interest in Cappsule. The offer will be opening up at the end of the month, and I just urge you to, keep your eyes peeled on all the emails from the team, and we'll let you know when the offer will be opening up. A big perk of expressing your interest in this campaign is that you do get to become one of the early investors before we make the investment offer live. Also, if you aren't familiar with investing through Birchal, I really urge you to just go ahead and do some reading. We've got some really good articles in our help center. And then when you are investing during the offer, it's really important you familiarize yourself with the risk warning, the company constitution, which tells you about your rights as a shareholder, and the offer document, which obviously lays out the terms of the offer. So yeah. Keep your eyes peeled, and we'll let you know when it's your turn to invest. And if you have any questions, you're able to get in touch with the founders too. And the webinar will be available to watch again if you like. Max and Dalps, would you like to say anything else before we finish up?
Just thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. A lot of great questions. Yeah, again, if you want to engage with us, please shoot us a message, and hopefully looking forward to seeing you all on the cap table.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.